Eventually, through clarity of witness consciousness, of just watching, observing, seeing, learning, what you come to see is that underneath there's a tremendous ocean of energy. When it flows, that's the nectar of your life. It's as simple as that. That energy is everything. When you feel it, use words like happy, high, love, excited, joyful, contented, peaceful. When you don't feel it, use words like depressed, down, burned out, etc. And it's that simple. Underneath, there is energy. Above, there's you. In between, there's mine. And it is that simple. What stands in between your consciousness, your experience of being, your experiential being, and the joy of your life, your chi, your shakti, spirit, energy, juice, high, love, call it whatever you want. What stands in between you and that is mine. It doesn't look like that. What it looks like is what stands in between you and that is world. And this is very important to see what's going on. It looks like I don't feel love because he or she won't pay attention to me, or because this didn't happen, or because that happened. That I don't feel good about myself because somebody else got a raise or got an A, or that somebody else won a contest, or somebody's more interested in somebody than me. These is what it looks like, and you have to look very carefully to see past it. Why does it look like that? And it really does look like that. It looks like that as follows. Underneath, there is joy, shakti. Mind blocks your ability to see and experience the shakti, the same as clouds block your ability to see the sun. The sun is always there, even on a cloudy day. The sun is always there. If you go into outer space and you look toward the sun, what you're going to see is not only is the sun always there, but to your shocking amazement, it never rises and it never sets. And it never has a bad day and it never has a good day. And for 5 billion years, it has been exactly the same. It has just sat there in one position, relative, right? One relative position, shining. You understand that? That's not what it looks like is happening. It looks like it's going up and going down, and it's not coming out on cloudy days and so on and so forth. That's not true. It's just there. It's just there. It's pretty amazing, all right? That is what is true of your chi, of your shakti, of your spirit. It is like the sun. It is just there. Nothing makes it be anything other than there. Nothing ever has, nothing ever will, nothing can stain it. No matter how dark the clouds are, the sun does not get dark. You understand that? No matter how long the clouds stay, the sun does not get dark. Nothing happens to the sun. Nothing ever was and ever will happen to the sun because of the clouds. The clouds block your ability to see the sun. So the mind blocks your ability to experience the shakti, the spirit. So that's your first understanding. So now why does it appear that it's the outside world? Because as follows. Just as the clouds are not always there are breaks in the clouds. There are sunny days. So the mind is not always equally thick. The mind is not always equally obstructive. Sometimes the mind thins out. And when the mind thins out, the shakti, the chi, can flow through. Just as when the clouds thin out, the sun can shine through. And sometimes the mind can actually disperse, be obliterated for short periods of time. Then you really experience this tremendous rush of light, of love, of joy, of high energy. That is not because of what happened outside. That is because the clouds cleared during those moments, and the consciousness which rests above the clouds and looks down and the clouds stand in between it and the Shakti, the consciousness is then able to experience unobstructed the experience of ecstasy, the experience of joy, the experience of this energy. All right, so the mind can thin out. What makes the mind thin out? Well, that's easy. The world makes the mind thin out. And this is why it appears that the world is giving you the joy. The mind closes down based upon what it thinks is supposed to be happening. If the mind decides it wants certain things to happen and they're not happening, you might have noticed the mind gets upset. When the mind gets upset, it's like the weather getting upset. It gets tumultuous, it gets thick, the clouds darken. More and more thoughts get created when your mind doesn't like something, don't they? Why is it this way? Who did it? What should I do about it? Every one of those thoughts is a thicker, darker cloud. Therefore, the more you think about something, the worse off you are. That's why that happens. If you sit there and decide, I can't be happy unless this person likes me, that's a thought. I want you to chalk up every single thought to a cloud. It's a cloud. If you could see it, a thought creates an energy cloud, and depending upon how much energy you put into that thought and the vibration of that thought, it can be very dark. And if you put energy into it, it grows and it stays. And then because it's dark, and you sit there and say, God, if this person would only like me, then I'd be okay. The more you think about it, the more clouds you create. Then when you are in the presence of this person, your mind starts thinking, why is he paying attention to other people? Why is she doing this? More thoughts, more depression, more closedness, more heavy feelings. If all of a sudden that person turns and pays attention to you and says really nice things to you, your mind is shocked. Your mind has gotten what it wants. And when the mind gets what it wants, it just doesn't even know what to do with it. So it disperses. It's almost like, that never happened before. I think I'd have a mind attack. And it literally disperses mind. It doesn't know what to think about now because I was worrying about this and now all of a sudden it didn't happen. And so if the mind gets what it wants or starts to look like the mind's going to get what it wants, the mind starts to thin out because there's not that much more to think about. Do you understand that? If the mind is not getting what it wants, it starts to think about how to get what it wants. And you think that thinking about how to get what you want is going to move you closer to feeling energy. It's not. It just creates more clouds in the mind, and therefore you actually get denser and thicker, and you get more tied up in yourself and more screwed up in yourself. But when the mind gets what it wants, then the mind thins out. It suspends for a moment. The moment the clouds suspend and thin out, the self, you, are able to experience what is underneath the clouds, which in this case is pure ecstasy, Satchitananda, pure joy, pure love. And the problem is it reinforces your feeling that it's outside. You thought, if this person likes me, I'm going to feel so much love, it's going to be so wonderful, it'll be the joy of my life. And then it got reinforced by the fact that when the person said they liked you or paid attention to you, you did feel all that joy. And so your mind says, see, I was right. You got it? Okay, it's very tricky. And you have to understand this because that is what's happening. The mind is blocking you, and then when the mind gets what it wants, it's unblocking you, and then it's taking credit for everything that happened. It'd be like if somebody was hurting you, squeezing your arm and hurting you, and then says, you want to see how good a friend I am? Watch, I'll make you feel better. And they loosen up. Say, you really are a friend. You must be a doctor. I hurt really bad before you did that. No, that's not a doctor. Don't call that person a doctor. That's Dr. Dread or something, all right? Dr. somebody bad. All right? It's like, it's not a good thing. The mind is doing the same thing. It is blocking you, then thinking about how to unblock you, which makes it you more blocked. And if life just happens to line up, which you had no control over that person suddenly deciding they like you or pay attention to you, life just unfolded that way. And so it just happened to happen that what the mind wanted matched what life did. And I'm telling you, maybe you've noticed that when you get what you want, it makes you happy. I wonder, have anybody ever noticed that? How young were you when you first noticed that getting what you want made you happy? Pretty young. It's like that one's it's like Skinner's rats. You know, you're not hard to learn that one. But isn't that funny? Nobody pays attention to that. Nobody has ever questioned, why is it that getting what I want makes me happy? We just take it for granted. Of course getting what I want makes me happy because it's what I wanted. I was right. See, you think it's genetic. You got it? That this thing will make me happy. So I got it. It and me are what happiness are made of. It's like two ends of the same pole. When these two things come together, of course it makes me happy because I fulfilled the circuit. You're wrong. That's not what's happening. And I'll prove it to you. I can prove it to you anytime you want. It is not true that the thing outside of you somehow has something to do with you, and combining it with you, it creates the chemistry that makes you happy. What is happening is the thing outside of you has a relationship with your mind, and it's not cosmic or dharmic. It's mental. It's a mental case. Your mind decided something. That's the relationship. What's the relationship between that object out there and my mind? My mind has an opinion about it, doesn't it? It formed an opinion some time ago. I like red. Oh, she's wearing red. I like her. I can't stand red, and I wouldn't like anybody who wore red. She's wearing red. I don't like her. That's what your mind does. So the relationship between your mind and the objects outside is that your mind has preconceived notions about what it likes, doesn't it? How many do you have? More than there are stars in the sky.